Look who's all grown up and ready for our AARP card.
We're partying all year long as we celebrate 50 amazing years of radio at Nassau Community College.
The voice of Nassau Community College.
This is the award-winning 90.3 WHPC HD Garden City.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Play WHPC.
And available on Odyssey, TuneIn, iHeart, and on the WHPC app.
90.3 WHPC.
.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. Welcome to From the Press Box here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. It becomes a podcast later on all your favorite podcasting sites. My name is Rob Leonard. And joining me, of course, is my brother, Tim Leonard, award-winning sports writer.
How you doing?
How you doing?
I always love when my last name is award-winning sports writer.
It is because you part of the contract, you must be introduced as award-winning sports writer. So, if you remember the contract you signed, next week, brother, marks the 8th anniversary of us doing this show. So, just to let you know, I know you'll be.
I knew, brother. I knew. I'm very well aware.
Okay, well, just checking because sometimes you forget these things.
No.
So anyway, next week marks our 8th anniversary. Will we do anything different? I don't know. we used to have on guests. We remember we had one time we had 3 guests. For 15 minutes we'd take a break. With 15 minutes we'd take a break.
We had several years we did that.
Yeah, and it's Memorial Day weekend. Sometimes it's tough.
It's tough to get guests on a holiday.
Yes, it is. It is. Anyway, brother, let's start off as we always do with baseball. The Mets are 28-15, 8-game lead in the National League East, and Max Scherzer,
the biggest lead of any division leader, brother. How about that?
It's incredible. And of course, right after we got off the air last week, Max Scherzer was announced that he has strained his left oblique, and he will be out for 2 months.
Indeed.
And you know what that means, brother?
It means he's going to be making even more per start than $1.4 million.
You know how Facebook's always on top of things?
I would debate that, but go ahead, brother. I don't know where you're going with this.
Well,
it must be good.
2 days ago, what comes up on my Facebook page? 3 years ago, Rob Leonard posted this.
Uh-huh.
And
here we go.
Guess what it said? It said
it's going to be something sagacious. I know
it said, "Bring back Bartolo Colon."
Oh, I saw that.
And you know what? He's 49 years old. He has a rubber arm.
No.
Yes. Bring him back.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Their 2 best starters are out. 2 months for Scherzer.
So you don't bring back a 49-year-old to replace them.
He can still pitch.
No, he can't.
Yes,
if he could, he would be in a major league uniform somewhere.
There's ageism in baseball, brother.
Oh my God.
So.
At what point are you going to stop being the lone Bartolo Colon cheerleader in the United States?
Probably next year. He'll be 50. Then he's too old to play at 50. Hoyt Wilhelm played at 49, brother.
I can't wait until next year.
Hoyt Wilhelm.
Wilhelm, brother. Yes, he was a knuckleball pitcher.
Yeah, well.
So they don't rely on speed. Bartolo Colon is pretty much a fastball-only pitcher. So when your arm gets older, your velocity declines.
That's even better. People expecting a fast one. It's coming at 90 miles an hour.
No, they're not.
So, anyway, Mets are 28-15, which is really, really strong.
Mets are doing well.
They
having a good season.
They're going to have. I think the Mets are in a much better position than they were if this was last year. The Mets were in first place. I think at this time they weren't as ahead in the division, but.
No, they were because they were only a couple games over 500. They were like 20 at this point last year. They were something like 23-19.
Yeah,
to make it comparable. It's like in that range. They were a handful of games, 3-4 games over 500, and the good thing for the Mets is they are 13 games over 500. The rest of the National League East is not even playing 500 baseball.
I know.
So they're basically handing the division to the Mets at this point. We're still waiting for the Braves to catch fire a little bit. I'm personally waiting for Matt Olson to actually do something. Matt Olson was the big pickup for the Braves. He's supposed to replace Freddie Freeman,
right? And
they signed him to the monster contract. Well, here we are, 40-something games into the season. Matt Olson got 15 RBIs. I'm not afraid to say I spent a lot on this guy in my fantasy draft. Let's get it going, Matt Olson.
People care about your fantasy draft.
I'm just, as you would say, brother. I'm just saying.
Okay, well, that's a good phrase. I've had an influence on my brother. Mm-hmm. Being the older brother, I've had an influence.
So the Braves, Ronald Acuna just came back a couple weeks ago. Has been playing pretty well, stealing a lot of bases. The Braves need some better pitching. I think that would help them. But, really, if you look at the National League, the Marlins aren't there yet. They still need more offense. Their pitching is good, and it's good young pitching. The Phillies they're just mediocre. I expect Joe Girardi to get fired at some point, probably this season, because the Phillies they're just not good enough. They're not a well put together ball club, and Joe Girardi is going to get the axe for it.
Yes, he is.
And the Nationals are just terrible. And I think we really have to have a look. It's a double-edged sword here. Will Juan Soto be traded, or will the Nationals find a way to keep him? That's going to be the biggest contract in sports. And I'll tell you why. Because Juan Soto already is one of the best hitters in all of baseball. He is a top 5 level caliber of production. But he plays on an awful team. Juan Soto's got 8 home runs this year, and he's got 11 RBIs. Because the Nationals don't put anybody on base, and for the most part, opposing pitchers, all they want to do is walk him, because he's the only guy in that lineup that can hurt him. So, do the Nationals want to sign Juan Soto for it's going to be a $400 million deal? Because he's going to get 12. 12 years takes into his age 35 season.
The question starts to come up, though. How many $400 million contracts can owners afford?
Well, I don't care.
And how many owners can actually afford it?
Juan Soto is worth it.
Well,
there's only a few that can afford it. But Juan Soto is a guy who, if I'm the Nationals, I'm doing everything I can to keep him. Now, does he want to stay there? Because if you look at the Nationals right now, that's a team that's at least 4 years away.
Well,
they have 2 or 3 really good pitching prospects. They don't have a lot of good positional prospects, and they are not good right now. So does he want to play the majority of his career on a team that isn't going to even make the playoffs? Look at what Mike Trout has been doing with the Angels. The Angels right now are in first place, but this is the first decent team they've had pretty much since Mike Trout has been there.
Right. We should say, we're getting back to the Mets, there's no word on Jacob deGrom. There's been...
Well, it's
almost like last year.
It's not that there's no word. There was a report last week that was encouraging. There is healing going on. There's progress being made.
Every day is supposed to heal this type of thing.
There's no timetable, is what you're saying. So
that tells me a lot,
the news is positive about Jacob deGrom because, if nothing else, there's been no setback.
Well, that's about the only thing we can be happy about. We should say the Mets signed Chris Bassett to a 1-year extension, $8.8 million. Today was supposed to be an arbitration hearing, actually. And
exactly. That's why they got the deal done.
They made the deal for $8.65 million with a mutual $19 million option for next year. And that included a $150,000 buyout, which is why the guaranteed contract's at $8.8 million.
Correct, brother.
And Bassett's been very much a leader on this team.
It's been very good.
So far, he's 33. He's 4-2, 2.77 ERA.
Yeah, his age surprised me when I read that story because when you look, first of all, the fact that he's still not eligible to be a free agent.
Right.
So that from that aspect, for a 33-year-old, that's surprising. But that being said, he is somebody who has already been very good for the Mets this season. He was very good for the Oakland Athletics last season. before he got hurt and missed pretty much all of the second half of the season. So the $19 million option for next season, basically, it's almost like what you would pay for like a free agent to be. Like the 1 year, the 1 year deal. So, I mean, from my standpoint, I have no problem with that deal. They lock him up. They got the deal done. They don't have any acrimony from a potential arbitration hearing, which those things never go well for either. So it doesn't even matter who wins. There's just a lot of hate that goes on in those meetings. And $19 million for next year probably will look good by the time the season is over, as long as Bassett keeps pitching like he's pitching.
Right, but I wonder if he was thinking like a 3-year deal, including this year, just to, he's 33.
He's not eligible for free agency yet. So
yeah, but he
probably wants it, sure. But
he probably could have said, "Why don't we do a 3-year deal? Hey, $35 million." That's
I'll tell you what, the Mets would have done that.
I would have done that in
a heartbeat.
If I was him, I would have done that because you get that extra year, and if you don't make it or something happens, at least you're covered.
Well, he's going to be making $19 million next year. I'll take that.
Not bad.
You can live on that.
I definitely can live on that. I told you I need $17 million to get by, but
there you go.
But $19 million would cover that.
Cover it.
Anyway, who would thunk in May that there would be snow in Colorado for the Rockies game?
The Mets got snowed out.
Yeah.
Was that Thursday or Friday? I forget.
I forgot.
I think it was Thursday.
Yeah.
But yeah, snow in Colorado, snowed out the game. You know what? Just before we get into the whole weather report, as far as pitching and the Mets go, obviously they need to be good. Without Scherzer and while you're waiting for DeGrom to come back, Taijuan Walker, he happened to be outstanding yesterday in Colorado. The Mets pitched a shutout, which is a rare thing. But between Walker, Carlos Carrasco, and I'm expecting the Mets to call up David Peterson, but those guys. Tyler McGill is on the injured list with biceps tendonitis, so he's at least a week away. But those guys, and Bassett, obviously, those three especially need to be really good and need to make solid starts for the Mets. Like I said, I'm expecting Peterson to get the call to come back up, but. I also wouldn't be surprised if the Mets maybe look to move Dom Smith to get another pitcher. Unless they look at Scherzer as, this is a one-time thing and he's going to be, he's otherwise going to be okay. If they have faith in his health, then I think they'll probably hang on to Dom Smith. But he's obviously a guy that you would think about moving to.
But then again,
pitcher.
I mean, if you basically go start your 2 months today, we'll just say it was like
well, that's what we're doing.
Okay, so it's today. Today's the 23rd, so nothing happens until July 23rd, which means basically the beginning of August. So it depends on how far ahead the Mets are in August. Do they force him to come back? We need you now. Or do you start
they're not going to force him to come back. With this injury...
Well, force is the wrong term, but...
It doesn't matter.
Encourage.
Because this injury is something that if it recurs, he's done for the season. Because it's another 2 months. It's that kind of an injury. The oblique is such a difficult injury because everything in baseball revolves around twisting and rotating your body. And if you hurt your oblique... You can't turn and twist.
Now, brother, thinking about a guy who never twisted, Bartolo Colon.
He was too fat to twist.
That's right. That's why he doesn't twist. He's not moving around. He just throws the fastball.
Yeah. So you're saying he didn't get any muscular injuries was because he was fat?
Yes.
Perfect. Let's have everybody in baseball gain 50 pounds.
Maybe. They didn't have
Nobody will steal bases anymore.
Well, no one steals bases anyway,
Sure
brother.
they do.
Not really. It's the home run.
Ronald Acuna does.
It's the home run and or it,
And Starling Marte, why do you think the Mets gave him $19 million a year?
I don't know.
Steals bases.
Oh, anyway, so, Mets are still looking good. It's all Buck. It's all Buck.
I told you. What did I tell you before the season with Buck?
You said the Mets were going to be horrible. The Yankees are the greatest team in the world.
Did not say that.
I think you said that.
Did not say either one of them.
Let me see. Let me check my notes here. Yes, it's right here. Tim said the Yankees are the greatest team in the world.
I wrote the
and
notes,
all you Met
so
fans
I know
should go
what's
to hell.
in them.
That's what you wrote. You wrote this May 2nd
What did I say before the season started was that the Mets would be one of the best prepared teams in baseball because of Buck Showalter. And that is showing itself. The Mets are a well-prepared team. They are ready for various situations that come up during the game because Buck drills this stuff into them. And he makes sure that they are prepared. So that is reflective on the Mets record. I still am just completely confused, I guess, is for lack of a better word, as to why Buck Showalter didn't have a job in the major leagues in the last 3 years. But the fact that the Mets gave him an opportunity and said, all right, we don't care how old you are. We need somebody who's a smart guy who's going to, kind of whip our guys into shape because we're kind of rudderless right now. And Buck Showalter is a perfect guy for the Mets. He's exactly what this team needs. I still am not 100% sure he's going to last more than 2 seasons because he unless he's changed his ways, his act kind of grates on players after a while.
It reminds me a little bit of how Billy Martin would come in.
Well, it's working right now.
Billy would come in the first season, they always did well. Second season, a little bit less. The third season, okay, time to get rid of him. But you know what? Buck doesn't show up, I think, if Uncle Stevie's not the owner. I think it was
the Wilpons never would have hired him.
Never would have hired him.
Never.
Absolutely not. Because Jeff Wilpon wants to think he is not only the general manager and owner or co-owner, but also the manager.
But they never, or I don't know if I want to say never, but they didn't want the manager to have the big personality.
Right.
And I mean, Terry Collins is probably as close as they came, but they don't want the manager getting the credit. And the way that the manager doesn't get the credit is that you hire a manager who doesn't have a reputation.
Willie Randolph, great example.
First-time manager.
First-time manager, and they dumped on him.
Should have done better, and they treated poor Willie bad.
Yep.
They did him dirty with that whole firing him after he flies to the West Coast, and then they tell him he's fired.
Yeah.
So now he's got to fly all the way back across the country. And
after they told him specifically they were not going to fire him.
That was just disgusting.
Yes, it was. It was a
disgusting move.
Horrible thing to
a class guy, one of the real class guys in baseball. You don't do that.
You remember, like 2 weeks later, he showed up at the old-timers game at Yankee Stadium.
Standing ovation.
And Michael says, "Who says you can't go home again?" It was a great line.
Yeah. Yeah, he
anyway,
has those every once in a while.
Well, yeah, he does. Anyway, the Yankees, brother, are 29-12.
How about that? And that's after getting swept yesterday in a doubleheader.
And they have the best record in baseball, and they're over 700 in the percentage.
How about that? Big percentage, 700.
This team is doing very well. I didn't think they were going to be this good, this continuous. I thought there was going to be a good April, and then,
we might be there, brother. The little lull that you're expecting, because injuries are hitting hard all of a sudden. The Yankees just lost Chad Green. He's having Tommy John surgery. I'm not sure when. They don't know when, but he's having Tommy John surgery sometime soon. Aroldis Chapman is being bothered by apparently some kind of sore Achilles he's got going on. He's allowed runs in each of his last 5 outings and generally hasn't been effective this season. Now, when you're paying a relief pitcher, what is he making? Something like $18 or $19 million a year. You expect a lot better than crossing your fingers when he goes out to the mound. You expect lights out. And he has not been lights out this season, not even close. It's gotten to the point where Clay Holmes is now sharing the closer duties with Chapman. And Aaron Boone has said more than once this season that if Chapman is out there and he struggles, the Boone's coming to get him. He's not going to let him work it out anymore because it's costing the Yankees, or has cost the Yankees a couple of games. But like you said, 29-12, and that's, again, after being swept in a doubleheader yesterday by the White Sox. Starting pitching, or pitching was not the issue yesterday, or at least the starting pitching anyway, because the Yankees lost 3-1 and 5-0. Now, in the first game, Jameson Taillon went 7 innings, gave up 1 run on 5 hits. That's an outing that you should get a win almost every time. Yesterday probably was the exception. The second game, Luis Severino pitched 7 shutout innings. And then the bullpen just imploded. Jonathan Loaizaga, who was phenomenal last season, has been incredibly ordinary this season. He gave up runs yesterday, and then the only 2 relievers right now, I could say Chad Green was one of them, but now he needs surgery, obviously. But Clay Holmes and Michael King have been the two reliable bullpen arms for the Yankees, and the rest of them have been kind of up and down. But with everything that's going on, and if for anybody who's saying to replace Chad Green, well, we can bring up Luis Gil. Well, no, you can't, because Luis Gil is having Tommy John surgery tomorrow. So he'll be out for a year. The Yankees will be lucky if he's back by next June. So he's done for a year. So that, and then yesterday, Joey Gallo and Kyle Higashioka both were placed on the COVID-19 injured list, which likely means that both are out for this week. Because usually, the COVID list, usually players aren't on it for 10 days, but it's usually about a week. You're eligible to come back when you have 2 negative COVID tests in a row. So generally that takes anywhere between 5 and 7 days. So, but again, you're talking about losing players for a certain segment of time, and that's where the Yankees are right now. One run yesterday for the Yankees in 2 games, and that was a home run by Aaron Judge, his 15th of the season, which leads all of Major League Baseball. The other thing that was kind of overshadowing the baseball at Yankee Stadium over the weekend was this incident with Josh Donaldson and Tim Anderson, where apparently Donaldson called Tim Anderson Jackie a couple of times.
Okay.
Now, Tim Anderson said it was racist, but Tim Anderson forgets that he called himself Jackie Robinson in a Sports Illustrated article in 2019. Now, Donaldson says that he and Anderson have joked about this before, but for whatever reason, Anderson no longer thinks it's funny. Now, I can't even imagine why any modern-day ball player, no matter what race they are, would call themselves today's Jackie Robinson. Because today's players, I don't care what color your skin is, they are pampered. They have a dozen people.
A lot of players don't even know what Jackie Robinson is.
Well, but they have all kinds of players who cater to their every whim. If they want something, somebody gets it for them.
Sure.
And it's like, go.
They're superstars, brother.
But then not even the superstars. The regular guys.
They're superstars, too. They made the major leagues.
Well, but that's what I'm talking about. So for anybody to compare, for any current major league player to compare themselves to Jackie Robinson is ridiculous. And Tim Anderson should have known better when he made that comment. But again, Anderson said it was racist, then Tony La Russa said it was racist, and Donaldson is trying to defend himself and say, look, I didn't mean it in a racist way, and we've joked about this before, and he was the one who called himself Jackie Robinson in that article, which, of course, nobody else but Donaldson mentioned. It was an ugly incident. Donaldson never should have said it. I mean, let's put it that way. First of all, he never should have said it. You don't go there in today's world. And it's just you can find all kinds of other things. If you want to get on a guy's case and talk some trash and go at somebody like that, there's better ways to do it. So I'm a little disappointed in Donaldson. I'm very disappointed in Yankee fans because they were chanting Jackie at Tim Anderson yesterday, and then in the second game of the doubleheader, Anderson hit a 3-run home run. So it was not a good episode
going on.
Yes, brother.
Anyway, the Yankees. We love the Yankees, Tim.
They still have a sizable lead in the American League East. They are
best team in baseball.
Best team in baseball. So good.
Anyway, brother, we said we were going to call Andrew Gross.
Yeah, let's get Andrew Gross.
We're going to talk New York Islanders after this break. We're going to talk with Andrew Gross, of course, as the Islanders beat writer for Newsday. So we're going to take a break right now. You're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. This is From the Press Box. My name is Rob Leonard. He is Tim Leonard. Stay tuned.
Radioactive.
It's Big Ed inviting you to join me Mondays from 10 till noon for the Good Gold Show. We've got the greatest hits of all time, all your faves of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, a whole lot of fun, and we'll keep you informed. Plus, we'll take your requests and your dedications.
Playing favorites.
So join me Mondays from 10 till noon for Good Gold on 90.3 WHPC, available on the Odyssey, iHeart, and WHPC apps.
Frank Sinatra,
Bing Crosby,
Ella Fitzgerald,
Dean Martin.
Hey guys, what are you doing?
We're making a list of artists you don't hear on the radio anymore.
Wait, I know where you can hear all of them and more.
Where?
Right here on Standard Serenade. Join me, Glenn DeMilt, for 2 hours of great songs by the great stars. Saturday afternoon at 5 on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Okay.
Go.
Tell your friends about the Nassau Morning Madhouse. Hear what you're missing.
Check it out.
Did you know that it is impossible to say the word bubbles angry?
Oh, it's possible.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
I dare you.
Wow.
Johnny's serious.
Johnny's calling me out.
Come on, Looney, give it a try.
I'm not angry. I'm very happy to be here.
I know, you can't do it. See?
Say
You're
bubbles
scared.
in an angry voice.
Bubbles.
Nah, it doesn't work.
I know, you're right. I wasn't even that angry.
Let's see you, Matt. Come on.
And he's like, bubbles!
Oh, God. Picture your dog Bubbles just ate something that you really love.
Addison?
Mother Bubbles.
Bubbles. I think my problem was I was picturing a pug with really big eyes.
Why? Bubbles. I don't know. I'm done with this.
The Nassau Morning Madhouse. Weekday mornings from 7 to 9.
Yeah.
On the voice of Nassau Community College.
90.3 WHPC.
90.3 WHPC. The voice of Nassau Community College, streaming at nccradio.org, iHeartRadio, TuneIn.com, Odyssey.com. And don't forget to ask your friend Alexa for a little help. Say, hey, Alexa, can you help me out here? Please, please, please. Not the James Brown song. Please help us find WHPC from the press box here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. It becomes a podcast later on all your favorite podcast sites. And we're going to talk to Andrew Gross. He is the Islanders beat writer for Newsday. And we're going to talk about the Islanders. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about the Rangers since he's also covering the Rangers. Andrew, welcome to the show. How are you?
Rob, Tim, great to talk to you. How's everyone been?
We're doing okay.
Doing good, Andrew.
Are you on speakerphone?
Yeah.
Can you just, I just want to hear what you sound like without the speakerphone.
How do I sound without the speakerphone?
Oh, we like that.
Much better.
Much better.
All right.
Anyway, so how are things going? You're normally the Islanders beat writer, but the Rangers are in the second round of the playoffs. I'll quickly start off with the Rangers because we want to get to the Islanders. They actually won a game.
Yeah. You know, not more so game one than game two. That obviously going overtime, them having a late lead. That was kind of a 50-50 game. They played really well in game one. So, you know what? I think the Canes are certainly the better team. They're the faster team. I would expect the Canes to wind up winning this series, especially with home ice advantage, and they haven't lost yet on home ice. But the Rangers are very competitive here, and they win game four on Tuesday night, and suddenly, you know, a best of three with two games in Carolina. This is a very interesting series. You know, I just find it, you know, a fascinating series to watch with the matching of the lines, and now with the, you know, the post-final buzzer anger between the teams. I think it's setting up. It quite possibly is the most, you know, interesting and exciting of all the series going on right now. And I know Calgary, Edmonton has been just an absolute gong show, but you know. This is, in terms of hockey and strategy, this is, you know, been a real good playoff series so far.
And I thought when the Rangers came back and beat up on the Penguins in Game 7, I thought, you know what, they had a pretty good series against the Penguins. They showed me a lot, and I thought, as much as the Canes probably, if you match them up, are a much better team, I thought the Rangers coming out of the first series was going to carry that momentum, so to speak, of their good series. And so far, they're not playing bad, let's put it that way, what you just said.
Well, yeah, and what, to me, the most important thing that came out of that Penguins series for the Rangers, other than the fact that they rallied from 3-1 down, was Igor Shesterkin refound his game. And, as you know, in the playoffs, if you have the game's best goalie, and you certainly have to put Igor in that conversation. Personally, I think when it comes to the playoffs, no one's better than Andrei Vasilevsky of Tampa Bay.
This is true.
But, Igor can play at that level, and he has shown that. He certainly had a great Game 3. One glitch. I mean, that was just an awful goal he gave up to Nino Niederreiter. But to his credit, he did not let that, sink his game whatsoever. He was really, really good. And if you look at the advanced analytics for that game, the advanced analytics suggest that the Hurricanes should have won that game, and Igor really stole it for the Rangers.
Well, that's what they need. Anyway, Andrew, the reason that I wanted to have you on was not so much to talk about the Rangers, but to talk about what's going on with the New York Islanders. I mean, the first question is just really blunt. Is why was Barry Trotz fired? I'm still trying to make sense out of this.
I think there are a lot of layers to that onion, and it may never come out, but I think this decision it could have been as much Barry's as it was Lou's. I know Lou, because you know what the public reaction to Barry Trotz being fired is going to be, and I sort of feel like Lou took the hit here in terms of, Barry. Speculating here, there's a good chance Barry indicated to Lou that even if he wanted to come back next season, he was not necessarily committed to coming back past next season. I know on a personal level, there are a lot of reasons why Barry would probably want to be closer to home out in Winnipeg right now. His mom died. He's got an elderly widowed father. And Barry does have family out in Winnipeg. I think his sister is out there. But I know Barry, when I talked to him before the end of the season, before he was fired, his family life seemed to be the first and foremost thing on his mind, rather than, how the Islanders going to turn it around next season. And I also get the feeling that, Lou, it could have been that Lou sensed that if they didn't elevate Lane now, they really were going to lose Lane. And you know how much Barry Trotz has championed Lane Lambert getting an NHL head coaching job. And like I said, this is pure speculation. It could have been as much as Lou looking at the way they performed this season and feeling like Barry had run his course with the Islanders. And that certainly happens with the NHL. And look, if you look at the numbers, you have to get more production out of Matthew Barzal. You just have to.
Definitely.
And he's going into the final season, of his deal. Granted, he's going to be a restricted free agent, but an RFA with arbitration rights. And, I've been writing that the Islanders, now is the time for the Islanders to make a long-term decision on Matthew Barzal as to whether, because you're going to have to invest in this guy next off-season, 7 or 8 years and above $7 million per season. That
sounds about right.
Yep. And you have to decide. And I think it's a fair question whether Matthew Barzal is the kind of guy you do that with, right?
Yep. That was one of the questions that I had for later in the interview. Is it possible that Barzal could be traded?
Well, I certainly think it's possible. And only Lou knows what goes on in Lou's mind.
This is true.
But I tend to get the sense that the fact that Lane Lambert is coming in would probably mean that Matthew Barzal doesn't get fired, because I think they want to make it work with Matthew Barzal. That's sort of what I'm reading out of this.
Okay.
But again, that's pure speculation. If we get to the NHL draft, or right around free agency, and suddenly Lou is entertaining trade calls for Matthew Barzal, that's not going to surprise me. I don't necessarily think it would be the right move for the Islanders, because regardless of the production you've gotten on Barzal, you don't let top-line centers walk out the door, especially not ones with skating ability like he does. But
right.
if he can't fully put it together, in the sense of like building his game and being able to figure out how to produce while also giving the coaching staff what they need on the other end of the ice, that's sort of on Matthew Barzal as well. And I certainly think, it may have come to the end of the road in terms of Barry Trotz trying to get that out of Matthew Barzal. I think, Barry spent 4 years trying to fine-tune this, and it just seemed to get clunkier and clunkier each season. And, maybe that was a lot of what Lou was seeing, the fact that, that the relationship there in terms of coach-player had come to a dead end. And if that's the case, if you're not trading Matthew Barzal, then you have to change the voice behind the bench. And so, when I say there are a lot of layers to this onion, I don't think it was just as simple as the Islanders missed the playoffs and Lou got a happy trigger finger and decided he had not fired a coach in far too long. Because if you think about it, if you look back at Lou's history with the New Jersey Devils and how often he... Right?
Yeah, he would cycle through coaches.
Right, but he went to Toronto, and when he went to Toronto and was hired as GM, Brendan Shanahan had already hired Mike Babcock, and Lou and Mike had a really, really strong relationship out there, even though Lou did not hire Babs, and that's why I included Babcock on the list of potential candidates for the Islanders, was because Lou tends to rely on past associations.
Right.
And so I thought that was a possibility. But if you think about it, Babs was in Toronto when Lou showed up, and Babcock was still in Toronto when Lou was fired out there. So, I mean, you're talking about the last coach that Lou had fired before Barry Trotz, I think, was Pete DeBoer on Christmas, the day after Christmas. And that would have been 2014. So, yeah, you could certainly say, boy, Lou probably had a really itchy trigger finger, right?
Now,
yeah, for sure.
Question, Andrew. If Barry Trotz last year, they beat Tampa Bay in Game 7, they go to the Stanley Cup Finals, which they most likely would have won. Do you think he's going to get let go this year based just on it was a really tough season for the Islanders. They played much better the second half. But do you think winning the Stanley Cup last season would have carried over and said, okay, we're going to keep him around? For the Islanders, I should say, not you.
Honestly, knowing Lou, no. I don't think anything that happens in the past has anything to do with what's going on today for Lou. Honestly, Barry could have won the Stanley Cup, and Lou, say they won the Stanley Cup and they had the exact same season this season that they had, with everything in there. I mean, look, Lou gave Barry... if you go with the presumption that this was a straight firing and it was Lou's decision, and, Barry sort of didn't say, I wouldn't mind, moving on at this point, right? If this is a straight Lou decision, he gave Barry absolutely no leeway for anything that happened this season. The COVID outbreaks, the road trips, the long stretches between games, and then the ridiculously condensed schedule at the end of the season where the team was so gassed that Barry practiced the team. I think he had 2 practices and they were both in April over the last 2 months of the season.
Because they were playing every other day.
Yeah, he couldn't practice this team. So if you go with the idea that Lou gave Barry absolutely no leeway for any of that and still fired him, then yeah, Barry could have won the Stanley Cup, had this season, and he'd be gone today just the same.
Right. I mean, that's because, we've talked about this on the show before, that, for our opinion, it was almost like this was a throwaway season in that regard. And you can't really assign blame when there are so many extenuating circumstances. But like you said, if Barry was part of this decision, and if he said, look, I wouldn't mind not coaching next year, or if it was, I'll finish out my contract, but I don't want to make any kind of commitment to the year after, then it certainly makes more sense.
Yeah, and I think the latter of what you said was probably more where that conversation skewed.
Yeah.
That Barry was like, I'm not ready to commit to an extension here.
Right.
It's, like I said, on the surface, you get that email that says Islanders relieve Barry Trotz of head coaching duties, and your first response is WTF.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
But then you step back and you think about it, and look, if you go around the NHL, 4 years with one team is a long time for a coach. It just is. I mean, you don't get tenures like John Cooper in Tampa or Barry Trotz in Nashville, where he was there for 15 seasons.
Right.
That doesn't happen. So 4 seasons may be, kind of the outer limit. I was thinking about that watching the Rangers with Gerard Gallant, and certainly he's gotten a ton out of the team this season, but he's never lasted anywhere more than 3 seasons, and given how things go at Madison Square Garden, I'd be shocked if Gallant lasted more than 3 seasons with the Rangers.
Well, we'll have to see what happens with that. Obviously, they're an improving team, and they have some really good young talent, but we're going to have to see what happens with them in the next year or two. Wait.
Well, by the way, we're talking with Andrew Gross. He is the Islanders beat writer for Newsday, but he's also covering the Rangers playoff series right now. Andrew, I was wondering, we've talked about Lou Lamoriello. What about the ownership? Do they have? Obviously, they have to know about this. Obviously, they approved it, but does it start with Lou, or does it start with the ownership?
No. It absolutely 100% starts with Lou. The relationship Lou has with the ownership is Lou is in charge of everything. He informs ownership of what he's thinking. And look, I'll be honest with you, and this has not been tested yet, and the ownership trusts Lou Lamoriello complicitly, or, just completely. But if ownership ever said to Lou, I don't think you should do this, or we're not going to sanction this, I think that would be Lou Lamoriello's last day on the job. If Lou doesn't get his way, I don't think he's in that job.
Right. Okay.
So, Andrew, tell us who is Lane Lambert? I mean, because like you said, I mean, I think he had become something of a hot prospect as far as young coaches or younger coaches, and clearly he was looking to be, in the merry-go-round, so to speak, of coaching hires for this offseason. Who is he? What kind of coach is he? Is he a younger version of Barry Trotz? How will the Islanders be different next season with him behind the bench?
What's funny is you say younger version of Barry. Lane's only 3 years younger than Barry.
Yeah, I know.
It just looks that way because Lane has this insane flow of hair.
He's got the hockey flow for sure.
Yeah, he's got the hockey flow, and Barry Trotz, who will make fun of his own, baldness himself, does not have the flow,
no,
right?
So, Barry hasn't had flow for years.
No. Look, Lane Lane is 57. He's waited a long time for this. He's worked as either Barry Trotz's assistant or associate coach since 2011. He started in Nashville. He was an assistant coach with the Caps, and then he was an associate coach for 4 years with the Islanders. Before that, you go back to 2007, and that's when Lane Lambert joined the Nashville organization, coaching the AHL team. He had a very successful run with Milwaukee in the AHL, 4 straight playoff appearances before he was promoted to the NHL coaching staff with Barry. He has a long, long association with Barry Trotz. They are sort of in lockstep. You know, when you talk about strategy, Lane Lambert, devised a lot of, or was at least in on the planning. Lane Lambert does a lot of X's and O's. He's a very solid hockey guy. You go back, and he was, the one thing he has over Barry Trotz is he played in the league for almost 300 games. He was a second-round pick of the Detroit Red Wings in 1983, and the first round pick was Stevie Yzerman, and the two of them, Stevie Y and Lane Lambert, became very close friends, and in fact they were housemates as rookies with the Red Wings, rather than living with a veteran or anything like that. They decided to these two teenagers striking off by themselves and cooking for each other, and so there was a lot of thought that Stevie Y might give Lane Lambert a call this off season since the Red Wings job is open. He's interviewed previously for the top job. I think it was with the Ducks going back to 2016. I think it was when he was with the Capitals. And he also interviewed, I think it was the Avalanche job. I believe that went to Bednar. I think Lane was in on that.
Okay.
Look, he's incredibly well respected within the room, and Lou kept going back to that kind of 2-week period and to start January when Barry was forced to be absent from the team, first because his mom passed away, and then he got back from his mom passing away and went right into COVID protocol. So Lane got about a 2-week audition there, which is what it turned out to be the Islanders interim coach. And what Lou said to Lane was, don't treat this as if you're just continuing what Barry is doing. Treat this as if you're the head coach and do things you want to do, because Lou really wanted to see how Lane Lambert reacted. And look, we'll never know exactly what Lane Lambert switched up, but Lou said there were some things where Lane put a personal stamp on it. Now, I was watching practices during that time. It sort of looked like a Barry Trotz practice, and I say that in a good way because it was very up-tempo. And the players talked about how intense Lane Lambert is, on the bench, in the room, what a hard competitor he is. If no one wants to win more, than the players, then, Lane Lambert is right there in terms of that competitiveness. So he's intense in that way. He's got a great grasp of the game, and I think, even though no player today is going to remember that Lane Lambert played in the NHL for 3 teams from 1983 to 1989, including, by the way, a stint with the Rangers.
Right.
If they go to his hockey DB file, they're going to say, he played in this league. And, I go back to what John Tortorella always used to say is no matter how good a coach you are, and Torts was a very good coach in this league, but he never played in the NHL. Torts never even played in the AHL. His career, I think, ended in the ECHL, and it was a brief career in the ECHL. Torts said, don't look past or don't underestimate how important it is to today's players that their coach plays in the NHL or played in the NHL. That carries a lot of weight, and I think that that is something that Lane Lambert has that Barry Trotz did not have. Now, look, Barry has all the respect in the world because you look at his resume and you look at him and this is a guy who's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Yeah. Flat out. I mean, you look at his, games coached, games won. It's him. He's in the conversation with Scotty Bowman.
For sure.
A lot fewer Stanley Cups, but he's in the conversation with Scotty Bowman, so he will be in the Hall of Fame, and the players respected that. But there's a different kind of respect when a coach can draw on his experiences as an NHL player. So I do think Lane has that over Barry. He's a very good listener. He has great relationships with the players, and to me, the biggest transition for Lane Lambert in going from an associate head coach to a head coach will be, can he maintain that strong relationships with the players, but he can no longer really be their, buddy-buddy with the players. You just can't do that as a head coach because you have to make more cutthroat decisions. And, players always gripe about the head coach. It doesn't matter who it is, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, to me, Lane Lambert has been a well-respected, on that tier of he's going to get a job eventually type of coaches, and now he has this job. And for him to keep this job and for him to maybe get a next job, it's going to be, can he learn that transition? Can he comport himself as a head coach after so many years being an assistant or an associate coach? And, right now that's an open-ended question. I'm sure, Lane has learned some great lessons being with Barry Trotz all these seasons. But he can't be a Barry clone because the players won't respect that. Players see through that immediately. You have to be your own man as a coach. And, that's going to be the hardest thing for Lane Lambert to establish immediately is, showing that he is his own man. Because, no matter how much the players like him, and I know they like him, I do think they're going to be just a tad skeptical going in as to, okay, exactly how does he differentiate himself from Barry? And I think that has yet to be shown.
We've been talking with Andrew Gross. He is the New York Islanders beat writer for Newsday, but he is currently covering the Rangers in their current playoff season. Andrew, thank you for calling in and checking in with us. We appreciate it. And thank you for giving us a little background on Lane because, I thought Barry was going to be around for another year. You did fill in some question or answers, actually, that we didn't normally see because, everyone that I know is Islander fans like, why'd they get rid of Barry? Why'd they get rid of Barry? So, and then they were blaming Lou, like me.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I think Lou wanted that. I think
Lou doesn't mind being the bad guys. You're saying?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't mind being that at all. It was a quick anecdote. Well, never mind. Lou probably wouldn't want me talking about that.
I'll tell you what, Andrew. Save it for next time when we have you on again. We appreciate your time.
All right.
We'll have you on before the draft.
All right. Sounds good, guys.
Okay. Right. Thanks, Andrew. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Andrew.
That's Andrew Gross, Newsday's Islander beat writer, currently covering the Rangers for the playoffs. And why not? Because
that was some good insight.
Yes, it was.
That's what you get from a beat writer, brother.
Right.
Is you get that sort of insight and somebody who knows what's going on behind the scenes. You can't always write that stuff, though.
Some of it is observation that you just can't write. Well, I saw this because
right.
As you know, you as a writer, sometimes you see things and you just can't write it because it might cut too close to the bone, or maybe you shouldn't be seeing it at all.
Well, or you can get to know people and you can come to conclusions based on whether it's attitude, body language, words that are used,
eyes to heaven as they're talking.
Anything. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to figure things out, but you can't necessarily write them until you've gotten them confirmed.
Brother, just one thing before we continue our sports show here. Don't forget about the Rock Binge, brother.
Love that show.
Every Tuesday, 8 p.m., rock and alternative music from 2000 to today lives on the Rock Binge. Binge on, baby. hosted by Jamie Levine, who's a great host. The Rock Binge every Tuesday at 8 p.m. right here on 90.3 WHPC. What are we going to talk about now, brother?
Well, just to follow up on the NHL, brother, the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, I thought the series with Tampa Bay and Florida was going 7 games. I thought it was going to be entertaining. Tampa Bay's got that series 3-0. And the Florida Panthers, who were the best team in the NHL this season point-wise, they're done. I'm sorry, they're not coming back from 3-0. I know it has happened before. It's happened exactly 4 times in NHL history.
Yes,
it's not happening this time.
Islanders are one of them.
Yes, exactly.
Let's talk soccer, brother. Lots of soccer to get to. You want to start with Manchester City, or you want to just tell everyone that my favorite team, NYCFC, because God forbid they come up with original. They don't come a nickname yet. Let's go FC. Anyway, they're doing very well, actually, though, so we can't really complain.
The NYCFC got a 1-0 victory over Chicago Fire over the weekend. The lone goal of the match came on a penalty kick. NYCFC right now is in second place in the Eastern Conference, brother, with a conference high 7 wins, and that's good for 23 points. They are 1 point behind the Philadelphia Union, who have 6 wins, 1 loss, and 6 draws. That's 24 points. But NYCFC does have a game in hand, so they're in good position. The Red Bulls, on the other hand, suffered an embarrassing 2-0 loss at Inter Miami. The Red Bulls now are have 5 wins, 3 losses, and 5 ties. That's good for 20 points and 5th place in the Eastern Conference. Very tightly packed.
What's the Miami team called again?
Inter Miami, brother. Inter. Like Inter Milan.
Oh, okay.
All right?
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Stop wasting time making fun of it.
I love to.
Anyway, Manchester City, brother, won the Premier League on Sunday. They had to route. This is Manchester City's problem. They spend literally hundreds of millions of pounds on players, and these players seem to find a way to lose. Almost everything. They did that in the Champions League, where they just totally bottled the aggregate that they played and lost their spot in the final. They should have been playing Liverpool, but they're not. Now Real Madrid is. But Manchester City had a rally from a 2-0 deficit against Aston Villa, but then scored 3 goals in the 76th, 78th, and 81st minutes, and that last goal meant that they won the title, because Liverpool won on Sunday, and if Manchester City would not have won, Liverpool was behind Manchester City by 1 point. So if Liverpool would have won and Manchester City would have had a draw, Liverpool would have won the title by 1 point, because they get 3 points for a win and 1 point for a draw. But Liverpool defeated Wolves 3-1, so Manchester City won the title by 1 point. So.
See this aggregate
unlucky
thing.
Liverpool. And there was this woman who bet on Liverpool before the season started to win the quadruple. That is the Premier League title, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, I don't know, a bunch of other stuff. She was offered a cash out yesterday. The odds were something like 3,671 to 1. She was offered a cash out yesterday for £95,000 and turned it down. She said she wanted to ride with Liverpool. And then when Manchester City scored those 3 goals in 5 minutes, she was out $260-something or $360-something thousand. Anyway,
you go through. They brought you in, brother. You know that.
Lastly, brother, Tottenham
Tottenham Hotspur
took care of business on Sunday.
Yeah.
Clinching a spot in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Spurs got 2 goals each from Heung-min Son and Dejan Kulusevski, the ginger from Sweden, as we love to call him. And another goal from Harry Kane.
To
destroy Norwich 5-0. Now, Sonny, brother. Sonny got goals in the 70th and 75th minutes, and that second goal allowed him to win a share of the Golden Boot as the top scorer in the Premier League. By the way, 23 goals, 0 penalty kicks. Mo Salah of Liverpool can't say the same. So Sonny gets the Golden Boot. Arsenal won their final game with Everton, and they wound up finishing 5th. Because they bottled their top 4 spot because they lost to Tottenham and Newcastle.
What does bottled mean?
Bottled means bottled is the English version of choke.
Okay, well
that's what Arsenal did.
We're in America, baby.
They bottled it. So,
America, USA.
Yes, USA, brother.
Anyway, brother, that just about does it. Another great show. We thank Andrew Gross for calling in. Coming up next is Big Ed Newlands with the big show called Good Gold.
I wonder if Big Ed had early voting in the Preakness.
Yeah, he did.
Did you, Big Ed?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Anyway, my name is Rob Leonard. He's Tim Leonard. We'll see you next time with another show. Next time is next Monday. 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. This show becomes a podcast later on. Take care and bye-bye.